to respond to this problem, we have already distinguished speakers or research person. First speaker is Dr. Tracy Logan. How are you? Apa kabar, Dr. Tracy Logan?
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, what time is now over there?
Just after 4 o'clock.
Okay. And the second speaker is Dr. Siti Maisuri Patahudin. Ya, apa kabar Bu Siti? How are you?
Kabar baik, Pak Bagus. Terima kasih banyak.
Ya, Alhamdulillah. Okay, before they are speaking, I would like to read their CV. For the first speaker is Dr. Tracy Logan. This is one of outstanding person that we have. That she has many experience and also achievement. Okay, if I read all, it takes 30 minutes, I think. So I'm trying to make it brief. Okay, Dr. Tracy got Doctor of Philosophy in 2014 from University of Canberra, and then she's got Master of Education from Queensland University of Technology in 2010, and then she's got Bachelor of Education from Chartered University in 2005. And one of the most point is she has so many achievements. For example, her achievement related to many competitive research grants, and then she also already published books and many book chapters, and she also published so many journal articles, and then she published conference proceeding. Wow, that's wonderful. My question for Dr. Tracy: how do you sleep? Because you have so many achievements.
I don't sleep very much, to tell you the truth.
That's the first lesson, yeah, from you.
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Next CV, I would like to read CV of Dr. Siti Maisuri Patahudin. Oh, the sound. Okay. Okay. Why is so noisy? The host, can you? Okay, right now is CV for Dr. Siti. She is also an outstanding person with many experience and achievement. Dr. Siti hold PhD in School of Education from University of Queensland, and then he has also a Master of Education from State University of Surabaya, and then she hold PhD, Bachelor of Education from State University in Makassar. And Dr. Siti has renowned as an Indonesian mathematics educator with over 15 years teaching experience at tertiary level. And she also has over 15 years experience as teacher trainer at regional and national level in Indonesia and also in Southeast Asian region. And she has extensive experience working as teacher professional developer in disadvantaged regions in Indonesia and South Africa. And the last, this is very amazing. She has already published more than 60 manuscripts, including 3 books, 2 book chapters, 28 refer journal article, 25 refer conference proceeding, and over as a 50 keynote speaker. Wow, it's wonderful. My question for Dr. Siti: what are you eating? What are you eating so you become an outstanding person? Oh, I can't hear your voice. Sorry, your voice is not clear. Okay, my question is, what are you eating so you become outstanding person?
Eat lots of fish, but I am a normal person.
Oh, you are normal person with many fish. Yeah, you are eating fish lot. Okay, yeah, that's the first lesson from you. eating fish a lot. Okay, okay. Next, I would like to mention the protocol, the webinar. For rule of the games, each speaker has 20 minutes for presentation, and then we continue around 25 minutes for discussion, and each round consists of 3 questioners. And then please take a note that for questioner should mention their name, jobs, and institution, and then for make it a short statement for each question. Okay. Without further ado, please, Dr. Tracy, to present. Time is yours now.
Thank you very much. Are we sharing our slides, Siti?
Yeah.
Yep, I can share it for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Iya, mungkin bisa di mute yang lain ya,
Iya.
sehingga tidak terganggu. Oh, sorry. Share.
Thanks, Siti. Well, thank you for everyone for your time this afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've been doing in Australia and at the STEM Education Research Centre at the University of Canberra. We wanted to talk a little bit about STEM practices and how our vision of STEM practices and STEM education might be helpful in the Indonesian context. Siti is going to talk a little bit about the STEM Education Research Centre to start us off. I think you're still muted, Siti.
We can hear Dr. Siti voice.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dr. Tracy Logan invited me to introduce our research center before her presentation. And I am going to speak Bahasa Indonesia, okay? I have asked permission from Dr. Tracy Logan for me to speak Bahasa because my slides here in English. So I think that would be enough. So Bapak Ibu, jadi kan ada prinsip di Indonesia ya, tak kenal maka tak sayang. Maka sebelum Dr. Tracy menjelaskan tentang konsep STEM education, STEM practices, our framework, saya akan memperkenalkan tim kami. Jadi kami berada di STEM Education Research Center di Fakultas Pendidikan. Teman-teman, dengan link yang ada di sini, teman-teman bisa melihat tentang research center kami. Misalnya, apa yang kami lakukan di dalam center kami. Di tempat kami, tema-tema penelitian yang kami lakukan itu adalah tentang mathematical sciences and technology. Di sana kita sangat bersesuaian dengan apa yang dikatakan Prof. Najib tentang bagaimana STEM itu dimasukkan di dalam bidang sosial. Kemudian fokus yang kedua itu tentang pembelajaran di daerah remote area ataupun disadvantaged community. Jadi di sini dikatakan learning in remote and diverse communities. Berikutnya, hal yang kami lakukan juga adalah di tema policy and leadership dan comparative studies. Jadi di research center kami juga sering bekerja sama dengan pengambil kebijakan, misalnya agen pemerintah yang melaksanakan ujian nasional. Mereka biasanya sebelum melaksanakan ujian itu mereka melakukan banyak pilot ya. Nah, research center kami juga ikut melakukan hal tersebut. Tema yang berikutnya yaitu learning environments dan communities, design processes and digital technologies. Di website ini teman-teman bisa melihat siapakah tim kami. Tim kami terdiri dari tim multidisiplin ya. Jadi di sini ada direktur kami yaitu Profesor Tom Lori, juga Tracy. Di sini ada salah satu associate profesor kami yang bidangnya di psikologi kognitif. Kemudian saya sendiri, demikian juga banyak dari tim kami yang mengkaji tentang STEM, tentang proyek-proyek ELSA yang sedang berjalan sekarang. Kita punya juga data scientist. Ada sejumlah mahasiswa PhD juga yang berada di tempat kami, baik PhD berasal dari Australia maupun yang berasal dari Indonesia. Ya, jadi ada Dr. Destina Wahyu Winarti baru saja menyelesaikan studinya, dan ada juga mahasiswa yang beasiswanya dari Kemenak. Di sana juga bisa dilihat tentang pedagogi yang telah kami lakukan, sejumlah publikasi teman-teman bisa lihat ya di sini, publikasi yang bisa diakses oleh teman-teman secara terbuka. I think that's enough from me, Tracy, and you can continue your presentation. So let me stop sharing this one and then share the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Siti, for providing that overview of the research centre that we both work at. Just a very quick summary of today's presentation. A little bit around human capital development and how the STEM work and research that we're doing can help that. The latest research, not just from our own research centre, but also internationally around STEM thinking. The spatial skill development that we've got across two of our programs and the pedagogical underpinnings that drive those programs. And then I wanted to present some of the research findings that we've been undertaking and show the improvement across children's learning from those particular programs. And then Siti's going to talk about supporting quality STEM education in Indonesia. Thanks, Siti. So some of the issues for human capital development that I think are not unique to Indonesia, but actually could apply across many countries in Southeast Asia, but also in Australia as well. Disadvantaged and vulnerable students often begin school 12 months behind or below their peers. And those peers are students who have access to education either before starting school, or parents who are highly educated and have resources in and around the home to help with that development. And unfortunately, without intervention, these students do not catch up, as we say, over their schooling time. They're perpetually behind in their understanding and development. But what we're hoping to notice and hoping to implement is that spatial skill development is associated with different opportunities for different equity groups. So there's a personal human capital there that we understand that if we're able to help students think spatially, that they actually have a better chance at engaging with these STEM professions and STEM content. The digital divide can widen the opportunity gap and heighten inequality. So access to digital technologies can hinder students' educational opportunities. But we think with purposeful technology, we can actually narrow the gap. Thanks, Siti. So our approach at the STEM Education Research Centre is that STEM is for all. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what I mean by that in the next couple of slides. But there is, I think, across the world, an increasing emphasis on STEM education. But what a lot of those focus try to do is integrate the STEM content, which often undoes the intent of STEM. Sometimes when we think about the discipline knowledge needed for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the level of understanding is really high. And so to be able to integrate those, you need high discipline knowledge in all four of those particular areas. And often teachers don't have the content knowledge across all four of them to be able to integrate them well. And so the challenge remains in educational settings from primary school and early childhood all the way up to high school and into university, is how do we make that STEM content and STEM ideas more accessible? And the approach that we're taking at the University of Canberra and the CERC team is to talk about STEM practices. So focusing less on the content, but looking at the ideas, methods, and values that underpin the STEM way of thinking. And by doing this, it actually ensures that understandings are related to real world and that students are able to enact and participate in those in meaningful ways. Thanks, Siti. So here's our framework that is accessible on our website. So we talk about ideas, methods, and values that underpin STEM ways of thinking. Problem finding, finding and validating evidence, questioning, proposing, designing and building, exploring and challenging. You'll notice they're ways of working and ways of thinking as opposed to particular content focus. So how do we generate ideas, process information, encode and decode information? Can we use the appropriate language and vocabulary associated with the topics and the work that we're doing? Are there specific tools that we might need? Are we able to think critically? And the values that underpin those STEM ways of thinking: curiosity, fairness, imagination, creativity, teamwork, and persistence. And if I think back to Prof. Ahmed said at the start that he wanted to understand more about how the ideas of STEM could work across the humanities and the social sciences. And I think this particular framework allows those more humanities-based attributes actually contribute to understanding and working within STEM. Thanks, Siti. So often when children think about STEM people in the real world or STEM practitioners, they think about the scientist in the lab. They might think about the engineer who's working in the oil rigs or designing a bridge or working in those high pressure situations about working through that engineering process. When they think about people working in technology, they might think about people who work in the Silicon Valley in the United States, in the digital technology world around coding and algorithms and things like that. And then mathematics, they might think about people who work at NASA or with the astronauts to do the mathematics that help the shuttles get into space. For a lot of students and a lot of children, those four STEM practitioners are actually out of reach. They're not people that they see in their local community, and they're not people that are role models to them to want to go into the STEM professions. They're a little bit elite and not something that they see every day in their own environment. However, we also argue that people that they would see in their everyday environment are also STEM practitioners: horticulturalists, builders, architects, surfboard designers. These are people who would draw on those STEM practices every day to be able to do their jobs. If I think about a horticulturalist in Indonesia, the understanding that they have about their climate, about the soil, about the types of plants that they would need to plant would be very different to the horticulturalist knowledge that the Australian context, and even across Australia, there'd be very different. The knowledge would be very different depending if you were tropical or in the arid environment. So just those examples provide access to students at all levels to be able to say, actually, we can be STEM practitioners if we take the focus away slightly from the content knowledge and more into a practices focus. Thanks, Sidi. And in conjunction with the STEM practices, we're also looking at spatial reasoning. So some of the research that's been happening, not just within our programs, but internationally, we know that students with high spatial skills are more likely to enter into STEM professions after school. And by STEM professions, I mean those first group of science-based professions, the engineers, the mathematicians, the technologists, and the scientists. So those people who work in those environments and within those professions have high spatial reasoning and high spatial skills. We know that spatial reasoning skills are positively correlated with STEM performance, and in particular mathematics performance. We also know that spatial skills can be trained, and that isn't just for people who have low spatial skills. Even people who have high spatial skills can improve their spatial thinking. A colleague of ours, Professor Mary Hegarty, has worked with the astronauts at NASA to also help improve their spatial thinking to help them navigate the world of going into space. So it's not just school children or undergraduate students who can improve. Everyone has the opportunity to improve. And one of the things that Tom's been talking about is novel and complex tasks. When students really struggle with understanding a mathematical task, for example, they'll often fall back to a more concrete way of knowing. So if the abstract thinking is too hard, they'll actually think back to a spatial representation. So I just want to talk very quickly about two programs that we have that are focusing on spatial skills within the SD area, so grades 3 through to 6. And our pod, which is our preschool program. Thanks, Sidi. So within our pod SD program, we train spatial skills through embedded lessons into mathematics. So in grades 3 and 4, we talk about spatial structuring and spatial visualization. In grades 5 and 6, we focus on mental rotation and spatial orientation. I don't have time to go into all of the theory around what those are at the moment, but we do have a comprehensive set of lessons that train those skills at those grade levels. Thanks, Sidi. And in our pod program, we have a combination of both spatial reasoning and logical reasoning for the children. And they are predominantly presented through digital means, but we also have, you'll see in our pedagogy a little bit in the next couple of slides, things that are not digital, which can also help students to think about these ideas. So we've got patterns and relationships, we've got locations and arrangement, we've got representations, encoding and decoding representations, and then the scientific principles of investigations. So both of those programs have a pedagogical underpinning to them. So they're embedded within a structured pedagogical approach. Children practice the skills through carefully developed learning progressions. And there's opportunities for STEM practices to be embedded within STEM units of learning. And we've also got professional development that helps promote teacher confidence and develops their content knowledge along the way. Thanks, Sidi. So for the SD program, we rely on the ELPSA pedagogy. Some of you may or may not have heard this. It's become quite a thing in Indonesia since Professor City and Professor Tom did their work with the GPFD project a few years ago. So we talk about what's the experience of the children, what's the language associated with the particular concept, what's the pictorial representation, what's the symbolic representation, and then what's the application of that content into either a different area or a real life application. That's not a new type of pedagogy. It has been around for a while, but it's also this idea of both a concept development, but also a lesson design. So if you designed your lesson using this, you'd actually get children to be able to engage with all sorts of different ways of thinking. Thanks, Sidi. And the pedagogy for the POLD program is called the ERA model, the experience, represent and apply. So because we're working with young children with this program, there's the opportunity to either read some books or do something, a type of experience that will engage children in the thinking that they're doing. Then we get them to go onto the digital representation and engage with the digital learning. And then we come back out of the digital learning, back into the centre or the classroom, and they apply that learning in different ways. So here there's an example. We've got a book around map makers. We've got some positional card language to really hone in on that positional language, spatial positional language. They get to play the location and arrangement app. And then what they did was use those cards in their learning within the centre and within the preschool to represent the maps and to represent the different positional language. Thanks, Sidi. So here you can see the digital challenges for the SD program. The students are encouraged to use different shapes to create different representations, and then to also work within a grid sort of structure. In year 4, they're looking at reflections and nets of solids. In grade 5, they're working with mental rotation. And in grade 6, they're looking at perspective taking and maps. In the POLD program, we have what's called user-generated content. So once the students in the digital space are able to have performed at a certain level on the digital challenges, they're actually able to take photos of things in their own environment and upload those and use those in their digital play. So children practice the skills through, as we said before, really carefully developed learning progressions. It is scaffolded on empirical, it's a little bit AI, I guess, where they get up to, they're now promoted to then try something different. So if they're able to make a pattern, then they're actually asked to fix a pattern or finish the pattern. So it's a little bit intuitive in that it senses when a child has reached a level and actually asks them now to go on to a different level. And within both of the programs, there's a real-time assessment where data is fed back from the digital spaces onto a teacher platform. Thanks, Sidi. So just some of the research findings from our programs. This one is from our SD program. It was 3-week spatial intervention on spatial visualization. What we found, the improvement over such a short period of time was quite phenomenal compared to our control group, which was just teaching the normal Australian curriculum as they would normally teach it. So our intervention really focused on training those spatial skills in that spatial visualization. So lines of reflection, lines of symmetry, and the 2D to 3D manipulation of the 2D net into a 3D cube or a 3D model. We have a lot of children across Australia engaging in this program currently, so quite a big uptake. With our POLD program, 11,000 children or preschool children have engaged in the program over the last 3 years. We also did a randomized control trial with this one, which was with more than 1,200 children. And as you can see there again, the spatial learning and the numeracy learning both improved, even though we weren't really teaching mathematics in either of the SD program or the PALD program. They were both spatial and I guess logical for the PALD program, but what we see is there's a transfer to numeracy and mathematics, which other studies have also found, and we're able to see that in both young children and in upper primary as well. Thanks, Sidi. And the last one I wanted to show, just want to go back one, I'll just talk about very quickly. Our colleague, Dr. Destina Winati, did her PhD with 206 children in the SMP age group. And again, she's found very similar results with that age group as well. So not surprisingly, their spatial learning for the business as usual didn't really improve because they weren't exposed to it. But you'll also see that the numeracy does go up in the business as usual, but our intervention in the spatial had a huge impact there as well. Thanks, Sidi. And so what does this sort of mean? I guess to summarise, we've been working in this spatial reasoning space for a number of years now. And we know that it is vitally important for children to have a different way of thinking about mathematics, but also then the impact on STEM. If we train students spatial thinking, it improves their mathematics, and therefore that spatial thinking then improves their STEM and their STEM-related thinking. So that's it from me. Sidi, I think it's over to you now.
Actually, I was talking and I didn't turn on my video and audio. My apologies. Pak Bagus, what would you like to do? Do you want me to continue my presentation, or do you want to have questions or discussion before
I think according to our programs schedule, you should give a presentation for us. Yeah, around 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you want me to continue? All right.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me share my screen again. Oops. Okay. So my presentation today is about supporting quality STEM education in Indonesia. Jadi teman-teman sekalian, karena kami bekerja di STEM Education Center, fokus kami juga ke Indonesia itu adalah bagaimana membangun pendidikan STEM di Indonesia. Seperti yang dikatakan tadi oleh Bapak Kepala Organisasi Research di bidang ilmu pengetahuan sosial dan humanitis, Profesor Ahmad Najib, bahwa yang menjadi pertanyaan besar adalah bagaimana sebenarnya membangun pendidikan STEM yang bisa ramah atau bisa cocok dengan kehidupan sehari-hari atau bisa diterima oleh masyarakat secara luas. Saya kira Dr. Tracy Logan sudah menjelaskan tadi bagaimana pergeseran perspektif yang dilakukan di research center kami, yaitu bagaimana mengajarkan STEM yang tidak mengedepankan pada kontennya, tetapi mengedepankan pada keterampilan-keterampilan yang memang dibutuhkan oleh masyarakat luas. Itu yang dikatakan tadi STEM for all. Nah, apa yang kita telah lakukan di Indonesia? Saya sengaja menyajikan slide ini sebab dalam pertemuan kami dengan waktu itu Bapak mantan Presiden Pak SBY, salah satu yang ditekankan pada kami itu adalah human capital. Dan itu yang selalu menjadi center, menjadi pusat perhatian kami. Kalau apapun yang kami lakukan itu selalu pada pesan utama Bapak mantan Presiden kita, yaitu yang dibutuhkan oleh Indonesia itu sekarang adalah pengembangan SDM-nya. Nah, maka STEM for all itu adalah sesuatu yang terus kami lakukan. Di sini saya hanya akan memberikan atau berbagi sejumlah kegiatan-kegiatan yang telah kami lakukan untuk mensupport kualitas pengajaran pendidikan matematika di NTB. Yaitu salah satu dari, dan ini di area STEM, salah satu adalah program yang telah didanai oleh pemerintah Australia sebesar 20 miliar rupiah kurang lebih untuk memperbaiki kualitas pengajaran dan pembelajaran matematika di NTB yang menggunakan framework yang telah disajikan oleh Tracy tadi, yaitu ELPSA. Oke, dan di sini juga dikatakan untuk membuka opportunities kepada semuanya, maka STEM yang kami selalu kedepankan adalah STEM practices, bagaimana membangun 3 aspek yang telah disajikan tadi di framework kami. Dan kemudian bagaimana bekerja secara dekat dengan guru-guru untuk guru-guru itu sendiri mencoba mengembangkan resources untuk pembelajaran siswanya, dan yang terakhir adalah tentang women empowerment. Nah, di dalam kegiatan proyek kami, karena proyek ini dibangun di tempat disadvantaged communities, ya, yaitu di West Nusa Tenggara Barat, kita bisa merasakan tantangan yang luar biasa pada proses pengembangan proyek tersebut. Karena teman-teman, suatu hal yang luar biasa di Indonesia dan sangat berbeda di Australia, kalau di Indonesia itu biasanya yang menjadi dosen itu tidak, kadang-kadang atau sering juga tidak punya pengalaman mengajar. Sedangkan yang menjadi guru di sekolah itu kurang mendalam tentang pedagogi pengajarannya. Ini adalah suatu gap yang sangat luar biasa yang dialami di proyek kami. Sebab kalau dosennya di awal proyek ini, proyek pengembangan STEM ini adalah kita akan banyak sekali dibantu oleh para educator di NTB. Tapi ternyata itu adalah suatu tantangan karena kadang-kadang dosen juga tidak tahu persis kurikulum yang dilaksanakan di sekolah. Jadi gap itu yang kami tangani sedemikian sehingga pengembangan modul atau melaksanakan teacher professional development secara cascade, yaitu membangun kita katakan sebagai teacher leaders, ya. Jadi kurang lebih seperti TOT, yaitu mentraining gurunya, tetapi yang utama juga adalah prosesnya itu sebagian jadinya untuk memperkuat leadership mereka dan memperkuat kapasitas mereka, kita bawa guru-guru ke Australia, yaitu sebanyak 2 kali. Jadi setiap datang ke sini 25 orang dan itu dilaksanakan 2 gelombang, dan itu sangat membantu di dalam proses pengembangan guru-guru leader. Guru-guru yang telah mengikuti proses ini itu kami mengamati banyak dari guru tersebut yang sudah terlibat di guru penggerak saat ini. Dan bahkan menjadi trainer-trainer, dan salah satu lagi sudah menjadi kepala dinas pendidikan di Mataram misalnya. Ini juga salah satu kegiatan kami, yaitu bagaimana guru tersebut dikenalkan dengan teknologi-teknologi yang terkini yang tentunya menjadikan STEM itu menjadi lebih ramah, ya. Jadi teknologi-teknologi yang ada di research center kami itu kita istilah bahasa Inggrisnya itu adalah we expose them with the latest technology that we have in our center. satu hal yang juga memang sangat-sangat penting, pelajaran yang sangat penting yang kami dapatkan dari proyek Australia untuk Indonesia itu adalah bahwa pelaksanaan proyek itu tidak terisolasi. Dalam arti bahwa mengapa proyek ini bisa dikatakan sukses karena kecantikan dan keharmonisan hubungan antara semua elemen yang terlibat, baik dari pihak pemerintah Indonesia, dari pusat, provinsi hingga daerah, demikian juga dengan para educator dan para guru. Nah, hal yang kami lakukan di sini dalam proses pemberdayaan perempuan juga adalah bagaimana membawa mereka untuk membangun rasa percaya dirinya dengan membawa mereka ke kementerian, membawa mereka ke kedutaan untuk menyajikan hasil-hasil karya mereka. Ini adalah contoh di mana guru yang tadinya guru-guru junior yang tadinya tidak kurang memiliki rasa kepercayaan diri untuk berdiri di depan guru untuk melaksanakan program yang ada, itu pada akhirnya setelah 2 tahun kami mempunyai data bahwa mereka mempunyai rasa percaya diri yang lebih tinggi. Poin yang memang amat sangat penting di sini dalam proses pengembangan guru itu adalah prinsip dari tim kami itu adalah bagaimana membangun kepercayaan diri mereka, bagaimana membangun rasa kepemilikan mereka. Jadi bukan hanya kami yang datang ke sana untuk berbagi ilmu, tetapi sesungguhnya kami sebagai tim researcher itu justru belajar dari para guru. Jadi mereka harus merasa dirinya adalah mereka itu orang penting, mereka itu dihargai, mereka itu punya kekuatan untuk membangun pendidikannya sendiri. Salah satu hal yang menarik di sini saya hanya menyajikan satu contoh dari dampak pembelajaran yang dilaksanakan pada guru. Tracy tadi menyajikan satu framework, suatu kerangka berpikir di dalam merancang pembelajaran yang kami bangun berdasarkan analisis sebenarnya ratusan jam dari video pengajaran matematika di Indonesia, di mana guru matematika di Indonesia berdasarkan video tersebut mereka cenderung mengajarkan hal-hal yang abstrak tanpa mengkaitkan atau tanpa menunjukkan aplikasi-aplikasi matematika itu sendiri. Lalu kemudian apa yang terjadi di dalam proyek kami itu tidak sebenarnya bukan pada bagaimana mentraining mereka punya matematika begitu, tetapi kami mengajak mereka bagaimana merancang sebuah pembelajaran efektif. Lalu dalam penelitian ini kami mengetes bagaimana kemampuan matematikanya, apakah kemampuan matematika mereka meningkat atau seperti apa. Kita tidak mengajarkan konten, tetapi kita mengajarkan bagaimana mengajarkan konten. Begitu ya. Hasil yang kami paparkan di penelitian ini bahwa ini menarik ya, karena ada 2 garis tuh. Ya, garis yang di bawah ini adalah garis yang di bawah itu guru-guru kemampuan guru-guru madrasah, sedangkan yang di atas itu adalah guru SMP negeri. Bisa kita lihat fenomenanya. Jadi BRIN, kalau misalnya BRIN bisa memberikan perhatian yang lebih lagi kepada para guru-guru kita yang berada di bawah naungan Kemenak, itu adalah suatu hal yang sangat mulia karena kemampuan mereka amat sangat berdasarkan studi ini itu jauh lebih rendah dari kemampuan guru yang ada di SMP. Tetapi good news-nya itu terjadi improvement yang cukup yang tajam di guru-guru madrasah. Nah, ini adalah salah satu program kita di dalam menarget women leadership karena di Indonesia itu kalau kita lihat datanya misalnya guru SD saja ya sekitar 70% adalah perempuan tetapi pada kenyataannya di dalam kepemimpinan itu banyak didominasi oleh laki-laki, sedangkan kami tahu dari sejumlah research dikatakan bahwa ketika perempuan menjadi leader, justru mereka bisa memberikan dampak yang sangat luar biasa terhadap STEM. Nah, ini adalah salah satu ilustrasi apa yang kami lakukan di dalam women leadership. Nah, sebagai rangkuman pada program ini yang terlibat adalah sekitar 470 guru, 76 kelas, 73 sekolah yang terdistribusi di 10 kabupaten. Kita mengembangkan sejumlah modul dan melakukan juga pengembangan modul untuk pengembangan guru. Nah, apa yang bisa diperoleh dari BRIN di sini? Begitu ya. Saya kira dari BRIN ini adalah salah satu yang bisa didapatkan adalah bisa kita mendapat pelajaran dari proyek ini, proses seperti apa yang bisa kita lakukan di dalam peningkatan pengembangan guru. Karena yang menjadi pertanyaan dan pertanyaan yang sangat serius, kita sudah bekerja sangat keras, begitu ya? Kita sudah bekerja sangat keras untuk membangun guru kita, tetapi kenapa kita tetap berada di bawah dari sisi pendidikan? Kemarin saya juga berbicara dengan Bapak Ditjen GTK, Guru dan Tenaga Kependidikan dari Mora, dan diskusi dengan beliau. Beliau juga mempertanyakan, kita sudah bekerja sangat banyak. Guru-guru kita juga antusias, tapi mengapa kemudian prestasi siswanya masih juga terbatas, dan dari ukuran PISA kita selalu terkebelakang. Saya kira itu dari sisi gurunya. Adapun penelitian atau publikasi yang berkaitan dengan proyek-proyek Indonesia ini antara lain saya berikan di sini buat teman-teman, tetapi publikasi yang lebih lengkap itu ada di website yang kami sajikan tadi, yaitu SERC, dan saya akan copy paste link tersebut di kolom chat. Saya kira itu yang dari saya serahkan kembali kepada Bapak Bagus. Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Siti. We thank you very much for interesting presentation that is very innovative and inspirative, I think, for Indonesian education. And there are so many lessons from you that can it takes follow-ups in the future. And right now we have 25 minutes for discussions. Please mention your name, also your institutions, and also your position. Okay, for first round, we open 3 questionnaires. Please raise your hands. You can speak in English or in Bahasa. Okay.
Yeah. May I?
Silakan. Yeah. Okay. Who will the first questioner?
Me?
Okay. Mention your name and then position, also your institution. Please be concise.
Okay, I'll introduce myself. My name is Uung Ulfa. I'm from
Nunggu Ulfa. Okay.
Uung Ulfa.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I'm from SMA 86 Senior High.
Okay.
As an English teacher.
Okay. Okay. To whom your questions? Your question.
I have ever join the program to make or to develop a STEM program, to make RPM using the STEM. And then I got stuck when to create how to make the materials using the math. Using the math, how to create it, it's very difficult because I am English teacher. How to create something, the activity using STEM, especially math. Thank you.
Okay, your question is for whom? To Ibu Siti or to Dr. Tracy?
I think for Tracy, because and this is exactly Tracy's area about math. Yeah, utilizing math to improve spatial reasoning. Thank you.
Okay. Second question, please.
Saya Pak Bagus.
Ya, silakan. Dari siapa ini?
Saya Bu Siswantari dari BRIN.
Oke.
Terima kasih atas kesempatannya.
Ya.
Tadi saya lihat tampaknya ya.
Your question is for Bu Siti or
Bu Siti mungkin ya, Bu Siti.
Ya, silakan. Okay.
Tampaknya ada kesamaan antara khususnya untuk matematika ya Bu Siti ya. Tampaknya ada kesamaan dengan pendidikan matematika realistik ya. Di antaranya itu pembelajaran dengan menerapkan konteks dunia nyata. Itu kira-kira bagaimana ya Bu ya penjelasannya ya Bu ya. Kemudian bagaimana dengan hal-hal yang lainnya, apakah ada kesamaannya juga? Terima kasih.
Okay, that's enough. Okay, second question. Sorry, third question, I think. For who?
Gus,
Yes, of course. From?
Okay, my name is Ade Dwi Utami, but you can call me Ami. I'm from Universitas Negeri Jakarta.
Yeah.
My question will be for Tracy, and then thank you, Tracy, for your presentation. I do research in STEM for early childhood education as well, and this is like ongoing research for longitudinal study. And I would like to ask, because I'm wondering behind the model that you develop, could you please because in early childhood education we have different also play concept or play approach that we combine with the learning practices in early childhood education practice. So I would like to know more about the play philosophy that you implemented in your model, the learning model you developed. That's the first question. And the second question, it's about the I can see the challenges in the practices that in early childhood education specifically, it's about the teacher confidence that Ibu Siti already touched that part as well. And then the concept development that being examined in your study. It's like how can you see that it is related to the concept development from the teacher perspective and also the children perspective. I would like to, I hope like you have more explanation on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we have already three questions. Two questions for Dr. Tracy and one questions for Dr. Siti. Please, Dr. Tracy, if you have any comments. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll go back to the first question around how to develop STEM materials to help develop maths. We're doing a research project, or one of our PhD students, Ida, is doing her research on spatial reasoning in local contexts. And she's doing that in North Maluku in Indonesia. I've probably said that wrong, Maluku. What she has found is that your culture is highly spatial. Now, what I mean by that is if you think about your batik, if you think about your buildings, what you notice is a lot of patterns and a lot of spatial thinking within that. So to try and develop materials that would help students with STEM, one thing you could start off with is asking them to look at the different materials and different things within your local culture or your local environment. Do they notice anything that has symmetry? Do they notice anything that has a repeating pattern? Do they notice what's the pattern in the local batik or the local art? So I think that might be a really nice place to start. And then that might start the mathematical conversations around why is symmetry important? What if we built something that wasn't symmetrical or that what if there was something that wasn't, what does it mean if there's no pattern? So I think that's somewhere that you could start. That doesn't mean you have to use a lot of man-made resources, or, you know, like plastic resources or things like that, there's probably a lot in your environment that you could draw on. And even if you went on a nature walk and looked at leaves, are they symmetrical? How are they symmetrical? Can they recreate those? That sort of thing starts that conversation going. I hope that that's answered, or at least given you some ideas on how you could start to develop those programs. For the second questions around early childhood, we very much were embedded in the play-based learning. We developed this program with some federal Australian government money, and the early childhood sector in Australia is very much play-based, as I'm sure it is in your country as well. So we didn't initially design it for explicit learning, but the learning was under the play, if that makes sense. So the students could go in and play with the digital resources, play with the other created resources, hands-on material. There was no expectation that they were going to be explicitly taught these skills. It was very much an open-ended play approach. What we did with the teachers, though, was help them to notice teachable moments. So if a child was doing something really spatial, like making a great pattern, what we got was, we said to the teacher, okay, let's jump on that opportunity for some explicit learning and ask the child, what's the pattern? Can you describe it? So we had lots of children using sticks and stones and all sorts of just natural materials in their classrooms and in their centres, making different patterns. And some of those mathematical patterns got pretty complex. There were some students doing ABBA patterns and ABC patterns. So there was that no idea of a unit of repeat. They actually picked up on really quickly just by playing. So we absolutely had that play-based philosophy. And I think a lot of our professional development honed in on, for the teachers, that idea of noticing when students are doing this. And so it wasn't that we asked them to completely change their own practice, because a lot of these educators in the early years already do amazing things with looking at the science in nature, doing their numbers, doing mathematical things. But what we wanted to do was just really hone in on, well, where are the STEM practices in that? When you're asking children to go out into the playground and notice something, are they posing problems? Are they using the right tool to create something in the sandpit if they want to make a tunnel? And really sort of identifying those STEM practices in the existing learning that they were already doing and teaching that they were already doing. Has that answered those questions? I hope so.
Yes, hopefully like that. Okay, the next answer, I think we're waiting from Dr. Siti. Please, Dr. Siti. Question from Mrs. Siswantari. She's from BRIN. Ibu Siti. Ibu Siti, apakah mendengar suara saya? Bu Siti still unmute, I think. Still mute or? Bu Siti, can you hear me? Bu Siti? Masih mute? Halo, Bu Siti? Are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. It's
yeah.
Yeah. Terima kasih pertanyaannya. The question is really interesting because it asks about the differences between realistic mathematics education and ELPSA. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So the two concepts have similarities, all right? Tetapi dia berbeda ini, Ibu. Jadi memang ada banyak kesamaannya ya. keduanya punya misi bagaimana membuat matematika itu jadi bermakna. Tetapi berbeda fokusnya. Mungkin perbedaan yang sangat menjolok adalah ketika mengatakan pendidikan matematika realistik, itu konsep yang sering diterima oleh guru bagaimana supaya membuat matematika itu real begitu. Oke, karena persoalan namanya matematika realistik, bagaimana membuatnya real sehingga harus ada upaya untuk membuat soal-soal yang sangat realistik untuk membangun pemahaman matematika mereka. Nah, itu pada ELPSA ini adalah sebuah konsep atau sebuah kerangka berpikir untuk merancang pembelajaran ya sedemikian matematika itu bermakna yang dimulai dari experience. Jadi upaya-upaya yang harus dilakukan di situ untuk memahami ELPSA, sebenarnya kami memberikan contoh bagaimana seseorang memahami simbol begitu. Simbol misalnya yang kami jelaskan katakanlah kucing begitu ya. Kucing itu kan sebuah simbol ya, KUCING. Oke? KUCING itu adalah simbol. Nah, bagaimana seseorang bisa sampai paham bahwa kucing itu adalah makhluk yang bisa sangat berbeda-beda, berbeda jenisnya, berbeda warnanya, berbeda apakah dia kucing di dalam rumah atau kucing di luar atau apa itu adalah merupakan yang dibangun pemahaman itu diraih setelah mengalami pengalaman yang cukup panjang. Nah, itu kemudian kalau di dalam matematika bagaimana kita mengeksplorasi apa sebenarnya yang sesungguhnya sudah diketahui oleh siswa atau bagaimana kita membangun experience tersebut untuk sampai paham pada pemahaman konsep matematikanya. Mungkin ini perlu satu sesi sendiri untuk menjelaskan konsep ini, untuk memberikan contohnya, tetapi ada paper bahasa Indonesia juga yang sudah kami tulis, kami bisa share kepada Ibu begitu ya. Jadi misalnya konsep dari sisi language ya. Jadi kan yang masalahnya itu adalah bahasa matematik itu memang bahasa unik, tetapi bahasa matematik itu bisa unik, bisa kontradiksi dengan bahasa sehari-hari, tapi bisa juga sangat serasi. Nah, ketika kita menggunakan kerangka itu, kita berpikir bahasa apa yang perlu kita bangun, ya, bahasa matematik atau bahasa sains yang perlu kita bangun di situ. Dan bagaimana mengaktifkannya. Saya rasa sebenarnya ketika saya menjelaskan kepada mahasiswa saya di sini, itu cukup lumayan ya, karena 4 jam perkuliahan untuk bisa menjelaskan sampai memberikan contoh-contohnya. Tapi yang pasti, sebenarnya bukan hal yang sama sekali baru, tapi itu justru adalah sudah menjadi bagian dari kehidupan sehari-hari. Cuma kita jadikan kerangka berpikir itu yang akan sangat bermanfaat ketika kita berpikir untuk merancang pembelajaran 1 jam atau 2 jam atau merancang pembelajaran untuk 1 semester. Yang pasti tahap yang paling tinggi itu adalah aplikasi, bagaimana mereka bisa mengaplikasikan konsep-konsep yang telah dipelajari di dalam kehidupan sehari-hari atau mengaplikasikan ilmu yang telah dia raih ke bidang ilmu yang lain, entah ke bidang matematik yang lain atau subjek yang lainnya. Seperti itu ya Ibu ya. Ya,
terima kasih Bu Siti. Tampaknya memang kita membutuhkan webinar selanjutnya nih. Tidak cukup 1 sesi ini. Kajiannya sangat mendalam dan cukup complicated ya, terutama in practice. Okay, we have still 10 minutes more. So I think we need one more questions. Wants to ask something?
Ya.
Silakan. Dari siapa? Pak
Dari
Sena.
Sena, Pak.
Oke. Please.
Saya dari Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Pak.
Oke.
Saya
Go ahead.
Tanya
Please begin.
kepada Miss Tracy. Maaf saya mematikan ini ya, mematikan videonya ya Pak.
Okay, yes. Why you close your video?
Because I'm outside,
Okay.
not in the room.
Okay.
So I want to ask Miss Tracy.
Yeah.
According to your slides, Miss, there's a surfboard designer. I want to ask about, is it available in Indonesia or just Australia? That is.
That's all?
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Tracy, can you answer?
So, sorry, the question was, is that a profession in Indonesia or Australia?
Yeah, about the surfboard designer.
Yeah, so I think Indonesia has some pretty good surfing, I hear. So there could be it could be both. But so when I say that, it's a little bit of a joke, but not really, because when you think about the science involved in making a surfboard float and ride a wave, all the physics involved in that, the physics of the waves, the physics of the weight of the person sitting on top of that, there is a lot of science and maths that goes into designing and understanding the materials that will best work for different weights and different purposes. So even though it's a little bit funny in that is a surfboard designer really a STEM practitioner? If you think about it, the science, maths and engineering that goes into that is actually quite complex. And so I guess that's what we're talking about when we say it's not just these high-level people that are able to think creatively and critically and engage with those STEM ideas. Lots of people do it in very different and sophisticated ways. Hope that answers that question.
Okay. I see. Thank you, Miss.
Okay.
Thank you, Pak Bagus.
Yeah, thank you so much for Dr. Tracy. Okay, everybody, because of the time, it's very limited. Finally, I want to say that this lesson is very fruitful, and there are so many lessons if we got from Australian lesson, especially on STEM learning. Anyway, however, I have some conclusion or summary, I think, about your lesson today. Lesson 1 is STEM combines various scientific disciplines where science, technology, engineering, and mathematics teachers carry out learning with an integrated approach, and each material is not divided but treated as a dynamic unit. That's first lessons. And then the second lesson is STEM trains students to make decisions from problems and develop skill in creating creative ideas. Students can argue to explain opinion and accept criticism and suggestions so that they can answer problems that arise in themselves and their surroundings. On the other hand, STEM also increases teacher confidence in developing skill, not only knowledge content. Hopefully, our summary is not so wrong, yeah? Hopefully. Anyway, because of the time, we're very grateful for interesting presentation, also interesting question from some questioner. For last types, I would like to show you or a gift for two speakers. It's like certificates for outstanding speakers. I hope my friends, Mr. Egi, can you show up the certificate of appreciation? This is our certificate of appreciation for Dr. Tracy Logan. Yeah, hopefully this is
Terima kasih. That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we can continue to another webinar. Yeah, this is for Dr. Tracy Logan. And the second certificate, please, Mas Egi, can you show up?
Thank you very much.
Ya, ini buat Ibu Siti Maisuri Patahudin. We have only 2 certificates for special distinguished presenter today, and I hope we can join or we can make another webinar. Ya, this is,
Terima kasih banyak.
Sama-sama. Kami juga minta maaf kalau ada persiapan kami, penyelenggaraan kami yang kurang maksimum ya, kami mohon maaf. Oke, saya pikir we go back to the MC. Thank you very much. We see you again on the next webinar. Silakan.
Bagus, may I just one sentence?
Sorry, Butrina.
Yeah, just quick.
Okay.
So, yeah, so really thank you for this webinar and contribution of Dr. Tracy Logan and Dr. Siti Maisuri Patahudin. We're really grateful and high appreciations from our research center, and hopefully we will have future collaboration with the University of Canberra. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terima kasih, Bu Trina. Okay, we back to MC to close this program.
Thank you, Bapak Agus. Ladies and gentlemen, before we officially close this EduResearch Webinar Series section, please be sure you have filled out the attendance list and questionnaire form so that we'll send you a certificate as a participant in this webinar. Pastikan Bapak Ibu sudah mengisi angket yang tertera pada link tree yang sudah dibagikan di kolom chat untuk mendapatkan sertifikat. Next, we'll take pictures. For all participants and speakers, please do activate your video. We can see that there are 5 pages in this Zoom room. So the committee will start from the first one. Okay, I'll count from 1, 2, 3. For the second page, 1, 2, 3. For the third one, 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the fourth one, 1, 2, 3. And for the last one, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. For those of you who have filled out the attendance list and questionnaire form, information regarding certificates will be sent to your email. We want to acknowledge again the presence of Professor Dr. Ahmad Najib Burhani, Dr. Trina Fizanti, Dr. Tracy Logan, Dr. Siti Maisuri, and everyone who has joined us and actively participate in today's webinar, either from Zoom meeting or YouTube streaming. We do really appreciate everyone for being here today. On behalf of the committee, I am Novi Silpia. See you in the next BRIN EduResearch Webinar Series. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bisa dikasih pengumuman terkait dengan ada yang permintaan slide-nya, apakah bagaimana itu? Ada permintaan? Apakah bisa dibagikan, Bu Siti?
Karena Bapak Bagus mungkin bisa dibagikan link videonya barangkali ya.
Oke, ya, terima kasih.
Sehingga di situ kan ada penjelasannya ya. Ya, terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih Bu Siti. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih Bu Siti. Thank you Dr. Tracy.
Thank you, terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Terima kasih. Goodbye. Iya,